it's important to understand that when you're chronically inflamed, that causes you to be fatigued. You got problems with memory. You got problems with executive function. You're not as cognitively sharp as you'd like to be. You can't be brain foggy. And that's why an inflamed brain. Today, I'm going to talk about how to eat anti-inflammatory foods to heal your brain, help you stop feeling tired all the time, and to avoid weight gain. All right? That's a three-fer, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. So, to begin, let's dive in and talk about inflammation. What is inflammation? Well, inflammation is a very important part of our immune system. Our immune system is part of our normal health defense, so we really want to have a good, strong immune system. And in fact, we want to have a good, strong inflammatory system as well. I'm going to explain why inflammation is so good and also so bad, can be so bad at the same time. So first, your immune system is like an army of super soldiers with a lot of different types of cells, and each type of cell is designed to accomplish a different type of task. Just like soldiers that are trained for different kinds of with different kinds of weapons, that's how your immune system also works as well. There is a first responder component to your immune system. It's called the innate immune component of the immune system. And it's called first responder. I call it first responder because when you have an injury, tissue damage, you cut yourself, you fall down, scrape your knee, all right? The first thing that happens is that your immune system wakes up. There's a 911 call to your immune system. It says, let's go send first responders out there to take a look at the damage and to really clean things up and help save the tissue locally, all right, from infection. Now, think about it. You scrape your knee, all of a sudden you rip open the skin, it starts to bleed, and now you've got bacteria and germs, all kinds of other things kind of floating around into your wound. Man, you could get infected. So don't want to do that. Your immune system sends special cells through your innate immune arm of your immune system, and these cells are called phagocytes. Phagos means devour, eating, and these cells actually eat up bacteria and other debris. Got a little dirt particle, little speck of this, little speck of that, and these phagocytes they have different names, they're different types. There's macrophages and monocytes and neutrophils. Listen, if you're in the medical community, you're going to want to know about what these cells are. But if you're just learning about this and you don't need to know the nitty gritty, let me just assure you that we know about monocytes, macrophages, neutrophils, they're phagocytes, but they're really first responders, all right? It's like police, firemen, EMTs. They rush to the site of an accident, cut yourself, and what they do is they devour all the debris and they kill off all the bacteria, all right? So they eat up all the cells are dying too. They'll eat it up in order to be able to make more room for new tissue that's required to heal. So healing actually starts happening right from the get-go after injury. Now, other cells come in, white blood cells or leukocytes, all right? And they come in into the area as well. They're kind of like the secondary squad that comes in, and they begin releasing cytokines. And these are chemical messengers in this space that basically amplifies the inflammatory attack against bacteria and for the cleanup, right? That's the innate immune system. It's called innate because anytime you get a cut, injury, that's what's going to happen, whether it's surgery or trauma, all right? Now, this inflammatory response, which I just described to you, phagocytes, white blood cells, recruiting more inflammation, clean up, devour the bacteria, clean up all the cellular debris, munch up all the dirt, clean up that wound for healing. This type of acute inflammation, meaning acute meaning happening right away after an injury, that is so important for normal healing and for health. You got to have it. So inflammation is a normal, healthy part of the body, process in the body, and it goes on to allow you to heal. And basically, inflammation starts right away, very soon. Think about it. You cut yourself. What's the thing that happens within minutes is you got some swelling in that area, bleeding and swelling. Swelling's inflammation, all right? That's going to last a few days. And then your immune system will say, you know what, cleaned up most of the spot, and let's back it down. So then the immune system will start making a signal called interleukin 10, IL-10, that acts like a volume switch. It turns down inflammation, eventually turns it off, all right? So you don't want that continuously. We got it all cleaned up. EMTs go home, fire chief go home, the police go back on your beat, all right? Now, That's what normally happens. And that's why inflammation is good. That's why we actually don't want to wipe out all capability for inflammation in our body. A lot of people misunderstand. It's an urban legend that all inflammation is bad. No, the ability to have short bursts of inflammation is absolutely vital for your health. Okay, so when does inflammation turn bad? Well, inflammation turns bad when that acute response, that 911 response, first responder response, doesn't get turned off. Remember, I told you interleukin 10 is like the off switch, volume down, go home. All right. But if that doesn't happen, what winds up happening is that the inflammation keeps on growing and growing and growing and bigger and bigger. And now you've gone from acute inflammation to chronic inflammation, meaning when it actually is supposed to have gone away, it doesn't go away. And it's there chronically. All right. This would be an example of this. If you think about why this is bad. Acute inflammation is like you got to light a campfire if you're out in the campground. Put the stones around the campfire, light the fire, toast your marshmallows and wieners, right? It's like basically stay warm, tell ghost stories or whatever. Okay. That's what a campfire is. And you want that. It keeps you warm. It has a purpose. But before you go to bed at night, back into under the tent or in the camper, you're going to put out the fire, right? So you're going to put out the fire, and that's like inflammation happening because you want it, and then being turned off because you don't want it anymore. Not safe to actually have the fire burning all night long necessarily. Okay. Now, chronic inflammation, that fire not only doesn't go out, but like wind blows and takes a spark out of that campfire and blows it into the woods, and now the forest catches on fire. And now you've gone from a campfire to a forest fire. And that's exactly what happens when acute inflammation doesn't stop, doesn't turn off, and turns into chronic inflammation, and then it spreads. Chronic inflammation is like the campfire that became the forest fire you can't put out. All right. And by the way, why does this happen in the body? Well, it can happen if there's a lot of bacteria or virus invading you, and you just need to continuously fight it off, right? That's why, if you have bad infection, your inflammatory response is going to happen for a long time. Or if you have abnormal tissue growing, like cancer, you're going to get an inflammatory response. Your body says, hey, this doesn't belong there. We got to keep on trying to get rid of it. Now, the other thing can happen if you have a foreign body lodged in your body, foreign body, like a foreign object lodged in your body and is provoking an injury or injury response, then you can also get chronic inflammation as well. And that's actually what we used to see with breast implants, is you get a little level of chronic inflammation going right around the edge of the capsule for the implant. And, it actually translated into overall body chronic inflammation as well. Now, the other way you can actually get chronic inflammation is if the body's immune system turns against itself. All right. Our immune system is not supposed to attack the healthy us. It's supposed to only go after the bad guys, the bacteria, the viruses, the dirt, whatever, okay, or the cancer. But there are conditions where our immune system misbehaving and actually tackling our healthy cells, and that is known as an autoimmune condition. Autoimmune, auto meaning ourself, immune, it's our immune system reacting against our healthy tissues. That's why autoimmune disease is so devastating, because it sets into motion chronic inflammation. Look, we're always going to be around our healthy us. And so when you're trying to attack the healthy us, we don't go away, it sets into motion chronic attack. All right. Autoimmune disease, highly inflammatory, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease. These are situations of chronic inflammation. Okay. Now I'm telling you this because it's important to understand that when you're chronically inflamed, that causes you to be fatigued. All right. Your whole body's inflamed, and the proteins associated with inflammation are called cytokines. These are the signals that are released. They're like really sky high in your body. You can measure them. They're all over your body. And they also get into your brain, because your brain is connected to your blood. You get blood flow that goes to your brain as well. You got inflammation everywhere, including in your brain. Now, let's take a look at the brain effects so you understand, because we're talking about brain and fatigue and weight gain and weight loss. An inflamed brain is highly compromised. When your brain's inflamed, you got problems with memory. You got problems with executive function. You're not as cognitively sharp as you'd like to be. makes it hard to make good decisions. And by the way, sometimes when you need to make a good decision is when you're actually choosing food. You want to choose healthy food. You need to be clear of mind. Eating healthy takes a clear head. You can't be brain foggy. And that's why an inflamed brain makes it hard for you to eat in healthy ways. And not only might you choose bad quality food or harmful food, you might also overeat, all right? And if you overeat ultra-processed foods in large quantities, which is actually packed with pro-inflammatory artificial preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, artificial colors, all right? Guess what? You overload the calories. Now you're going to gain weight. Now it's going to, and the extra body fat that you're going to get, visceral fat, is going to eventually become more inflamed. Now you've just added to your inflammation, your chronic inflammation. Now this time it's coming from body fat, all right? So don't forget when I'm telling you how brain inflammation is connected to weight gain, but brain inflammation is also connected to fatigue. Now, fatigue is actually something that we don't truly have a great understanding of, believe it or not. There's a difference between being tired, I need to go to bed, versus I am so fatigued, I'm wiped out, I can't do anything, all right? And we've all been there. You know, think about the time you had a really bad flu and you're laid up in bed. Man, you don't want to do anything. You are so tired, all you want to do is sleep. And imagine if you had to do a crossword puzzle or you had to plan a vacation or plan a wedding, forget about it. It's not going to happen. Like you're like, man, let me get over this sickness and I'll deal with it after that. So that's why fatigue actually can happen when the brain is also inflamed or when you have whole body inflammation as well. And the weight gain, we talked about it as well, is that when you're inflamed in general, it doesn't take very much for, poor decision making to cause you to overeat or eat ultra processed foods, which helps you gain extra harmful body fat. Don't forget, food is our fuel. Load up on our fuel. If we're not controlling the amount or the quality of fuel we have, the amount of fuel we put in our tank, or the quality of fuel we put into our tank, that's the food that we're eating for our body. Our fat cells are going to grow. Our fat cells are fuel tanks for our body. Just like, your gas tank in your car is a storage tank for the fuel you put in at the gas station, the petrol, all right? But in our body, how we actually store fuel, we put some into our muscles so we can actually, and we've got some in our blood so we can actually do our thing, but we store it really well, okay? When you hear about insulin coming up and drawing glucose in the cells, one place that we store energy, fuel, is in our fat cells. And unlike a car, where you actually have a fuel tank that's rigid. So if you try to overfill the car's gas tank, let's say the clicker is broken on the nozzle, it'll run out of the car tank, it'll run down the bottom of the side of the car, run the wheels, pool around your feet, and guess what? You're standing in the middle of a highly flammable, toxic mess, dangerous, right? Fortunately, that's why they put the clicker on the gas station so that doesn't happen to us, but we don't have a clicker in our body. We can keep eating, we can keep eating, we can keep eating. And the foggier we are, brain foggier we are, the more inflamed we are, we might be eating more, not making good decisions. And guess what happens? Especially if we're eating poor quality food, ultra-processed food, okay? Not eating anti-inflammatory food, we're actually eating pro-inflammatory, meaning inflammation-stimulating food. Now, whatever was going on in your body from inflammation is getting a lot worse, all right? That becomes a real problem because as we eat more, you bring in more fuel into our body and store more fuel into our fat cells expand. You're still eating? Let's load up another fat cell, fuel tank. Boom, it expands. All right, a fat cell can expand 3 times its size. Oh, you're still eating? I'll expand another one. Oh, we're out of fat? Guess what? Let's use stem cells to create new fat cells. Now we're actually creating new fuel tanks, and we can blow those up and again and again and again. You can kind of see how overeating over time really sets you up for gaining body fat. And the first place that it actually is where it's dangerous to gain the fat isn't under your arm, isn't under your chin, isn't the muffin top. Those are cosmetic issues. You might not feel good if you accumulate that. And of course, we've all had the experience, right? You're taking a shower in the morning, you step out, you're drying yourself off, and out of the corner of your eye, you look in the mirror at your naked body, and you might see a lump or a bump that you didn't want to be there. That's not what I'm talking about. The harmful, dangerous fat is a kind of fat called visceral fat that accumulates inside the tube of your body. I don't care if you're a big person or a thin person, all right? You still have a tube, and that visceral fat grows around inside the tube of your body, around your abdomen and your belly. It's called viscera because the word viscera means guts. So visceral fat is the fat that grows around your guts. It's kind of like a baseball glove that can wrap around your organ. And obviously you don't want that to be growing and growing and growing, because the bigger it grows, it starts to become inflamed. Huge mounds of fat become very inflammatory. And now you're actually even contributing to the inflammation with excess fat, all right? You get it? So this is why we want to actually think about limiting, controlling, lowering inflammation. And there's a lot of ways to actually do that, but you need to sort of think about that. So we just connected the brain with gaining weight, with fatigue as well. All really, really important connections. Now, I'll tell you one additional thing that where inflammation can lead you to gain extra body fat as well. Normal, healthy fat produces a hormone, because your fat is actually an organ in your body, all right? It's called adipose tissue. The adipose organ produces a hormone called adiponectin. That's A-D-I-P-O-N, N-E-C-T-I-N, adiponectin. It's a hormone made by healthy fat. And what adiponectin does is it actually collaborates with insulin. Okay, that's your other hormone for bringing in glucose. And adiponectin makes insulin more efficient, so you can actually take blood glucose that's in your bloodstream after eating a meal and draw it down into your cells more efficiently, so you can really store that fuel. Adiponectin made by healthy fat. Now, if you have a lot of inflammation and if the fat is inflamed, guess what? Your fat doesn't make adiponectin normally. Can't make adiponectin. In fact, sometimes adiponectin levels are low. If you have low adiponectin, the insulin will work well, and then you're not going to be able to draw in glucose, and then your blood glucose levels will be high. That's a setup for metabolic syndrome or type 2 diabetes, right? So all these complicated things I'm telling you about are all linked to inflammation. In other words, that process, inflammation, that helps us clean up a wound, that first responder thing that I talked about at the very beginning of this video, that's so important, that turns on and then turns off when it's no longer needed. Hey, EMTs, go back home. If it doesn't turn off and everybody's there and piles on whatever's going to happen, and then starts to create problems with inflammation, and then it spreads, and now your whole body's inflamed and your brain's inflamed, and you're not making good decisions, and you might be overeating, and you're going to be growing fat, and you're going to be tired, really, really tired. That is really why we're linking all these things together. You want to avoid that vicious cycle. So let's talk about an anti-inflammatory diet, because a lot of people talk about anti-inflammatory diets as if there's sort of like one formula, one magic formula that all you got to do is follow it and you're going to be healthy. Not so. All right. I'm a scientist, so I'm quick to tell you when something is not exactly that simple. All right. And as most things in nutrition, people try to oversimplify things. And I think that does a disservice to you guys that are watching videos like this one, because you want to know what the details are. Sure, you might want a simple on-off magic bullet, but really, let's be real. Life is complicated and our bodies are incredibly sophisticated. So let's figure out the nuances so you don't take a step in the wrong direction and we understand things more precisely. All right? Okay, so what I just told you basically is that the anti-inflammatory diet is a general approach, but there's a lot of ways to actually approach an anti-inflammatory diet. Different types of anti-inflammatory diets, but they're all designed to lower or prevent inflammation. Lower or prevent inflammation, chronic inflammation, all right? So let me just tell you, if you want to actually try to prevent inflammation, super simple way to get started on an anti-inflammatory diet is simply to cut out ultra-processed foods. You know, the stuff that you go into the grocery store and you buy in a box or a jar or a bag, and it's made in a factory with a machine that squeezes it out. They add artificial preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, maybe artificial sweeteners, all right? All these stabilizers. Take a look at the ingredient of whatever packaged thing you're buying and see if you understand, if you can pronounce the chemicals, but also see if you understand what they're doing in there. If you don't understand what those chemicals are actually doing, the role of what they're doing in there, it's probably a good chance it's an ultra processed food. It's almost certainly going to be an ultra processed food. It could be in the freezer section. It could be in the dry goods section. All right, it could be anywhere in a grocery store. Once you start seeing what a factory does to whole foods, the saying that if it's something your grandmother, if you look at the ingredient label and it's something your grandmother wouldn't recognize as food, it's probably ultra processed. That's a simple way to kind of nail the identification of that as well. Well, look, there's a lot of data that's pretty uncontestable now that eating a lot of ultra processed foods shortens longevity, raises inflammation, puts you at risk for cognitive function, makes you tired, all right, and also causes you to gain weight. And one of the reasons that ultra processed foods does is that the chemicals in ultra processed foods actually damages your gut microbiome. These are the healthy bacteria that live in your gut, mostly in your colon, all right? That's sort of the last part of your digestive system, 39 trillion of them. And these healthy bacteria form a community, a colony, like a good neighborhood. A good neighborhood has got diversity, has got people that work harmoniously and are friendly with each other. They play nicely together, and they make the entire neighborhood a safer place. That's what good, healthy gut bacteria do. So when you hear about the gut microbiome and good gut health, we're talking about a healthy, diverse neighborhood of different types of bacteria that all play nicely together and have a function. One of the most important functions of a good, healthy gut bacteria is lowering inflammation. And the way that gut bacteria lower inflammation, they produce something called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, SCFAs. And these short-chain fatty acids, and we know what they are. They're chemicals called propionate, butyrate, and acetate. If you're a science geek or you're a stickler for details, you're going to want to know that. The three SCFAs made by healthy gut microbiome that's good for lowering inflammation are propionate, butyrate, and acetate. If you're not a science geek and you're not a biohacker and you don't want to know about these things, don't worry. I'll just tell you is that when you feed your gut bacteria and make them happy and well fed, just like a pet dog, all right, the bacteria return the favor. They show they love you by actually releasing these short chain fatty acids, and the short chain fatty acids lower inflammation, and they also help to boost the immune system. So you've got better immune function as well, better protective immune function. All really good. The other thing that healthy gut bacteria does is from your gut, it text messages your brain, and it has your brain release things like social hormones. There's a hormone called oxytocin that healthy gut bacteria releases. So listen, good stuff, right? So one way to actually lower inflammation in your body is to cut out ultra-processed foods, because ultra-processed foods damage your healthy gut bacteria. When you damage your healthy gut bacteria, you're disrupting the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood. And now the bacteria are not so happy. They're unable to make those short chain fatty acids at the levels that you need. And so rather than tame inflammation levels start to rise. Okay. So if you want an anti-inflammatory diet, cut out ultra processed foods. I know the ideal thing is to cut out all ultra processed food, but that's difficult. I mean, we're surrounded by this, by ultra processed foods, but really be mindful to cut them down or cut them out would be even better. All right, so that's one kind of anti-inflammatory diet. Turmeric, all right? And this is probably the spice that everyone recognizes by now when it comes to health and wellness, right? You've heard about turmeric. It's got something called curcumin in it, and you'd find turmeric in either the dried spice section of a grocery store. It's a bright yellow powder that comes in a jar, but you can also find whole, fresh turmeric in the produce section. It's these tiny little root-like things that if you break it apart, it's got a real orange middle of it. And the part of the turmeric that we use for spice is called the rhizome, which is similar to the root. It's not quite buried into the ground. It's like the part of the plant that's almost a root that sticks up. Now, the plant that turmeric is based on is a member of the ginger family, and that's why the root kind of looks like ginger. And this plant originated in Southeast Asia, and it's very commonly used in Indian cuisine and Indonesian cuisine, especially in curries. It's got this warm, peppery flavor. That's what you're looking for when you actually cook with turmeric. And because of its yellow color, turmeric sometimes used as a fabric dye or actually used to colorize food as well. The bioactive in turmeric is called curcumin, and curcumin has powerful anti-inflammatory effects. And this has been studied many times in clinical trials, and it's been shown for its potency in almost every study. In fact, one study that was conducted by the Isfahan University in Iran, they looked at 60 people with osteoarthritis of the knee. This is like really painful wear and tear arthritis in the knee. And what they did is they gave the subjects either turmeric or a standard non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug like naproxen, okay? And so turmeric versus pharmaceutical every day for 4 weeks. And at the end of the study, what the researchers found is that taking turmeric was just as good as the pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drug when it comes to reducing the inflammatory marker in the blood called prostaglandin E2. So they gave these people drugs versus turmeric, and they actually found that when it looked at the inflammatory marker in the blood, that both of them reduced it equally. This is food as medicine in real life. Another study from Spain looked at 68 individuals with knee arthritis, same kind, and showed that it decreased the blood marker, inflammatory blood marker, C-reactive protein, or CRP as well. Again, 2 different inflammatory markers, all decreased by people with arthritis taking turmeric. Now, curcumin, the bioactive, is also an antioxidant. It also improves metabolism, and my own research shows that it can actually improve the health of your blood vessels, your circulation as well. In fact, curcumin is so potent as a bioactive that when you eat it, your body doesn't want to absorb and hang on to all of it. It kind of kicks it out in your gut. So if you want to hang on to your curcumin, what you want to do is to be able to eat it along with some freshly cracked black pepper, because inside black pepper is a natural substance called piperine that helps your body retain curcumin. All right, so that's why turmeric and black pepper are often mixed together like in a curry in order to be able to get the most benefit from this particular spice. So here are some pro tips when it comes to turmeric. If you want to buy it fresh, you want to store it in the fridge, make sure you dry it really well. If you're going to wash it off, which you should, dry it really well by wiping with a towel, because otherwise mold can very easily grow on turmeric. And if you have powdered turmeric, just store it in a jar, make sure it's airtight, and keep it in a dark, cool area. And for some cooking tips, I'll tell you what I like to do. I like to add some dried turmeric to soups and stews to give it some flavor, that warm peppery flavor, a little bit of color. And if you're roasting vegetables like carrots or cauliflower, you can sprinkle some turmeric on top of it. It makes it a beautiful color, as well as to give it a nice flavor to it as well. The other thing you can do, if you're roasting a chicken, for example, you can actually sprinkle some turmeric on the skin and cook it right into the chicken, and you'll get some, again, a nice, beautiful, flavorful chicken. And if you want to also just scramble some eggs, you can also sprinkle turmeric on scrambled eggs as well. There's so many different ways to use it. You might have seen it at a coffee shop. You can put turmeric into coffee. You can add it to tea. And of course, if you're making your own curry, by combining lots of different spices, this is actually where turmeric powder really, really shines. Broccoli. I want to focus in on broccoli for a second, because broccoli is kind of like a triple whammy, a triple threat of benefit when you actually talk about anti-inflammation. So here's what broccoli has. It's got a bioactive that's called isothiocyanate, ITC, all right? And this is powerfully anti-inflammatory. Broccoli is also a good source of vitamin C, as I mentioned earlier. That's number 2, second benefit. And broccoli's got dietary fiber. Good for the gut microbiome, which then lowers inflammation. Isothiocyanate, vitamin C, dietary fiber, a triple whammy that's good for you, all right? Now, I'm going to give you some pro tips when it actually comes to eating broccoli. Most of us grew up eating broccoli and getting used to the fact that you eat the florets. Those are the treetops, right? The little green treetops at the top. And of course, florets do have ITC, florets do have vitamin C, and florets do have dietary fiber. So florets are good, all right? That's what you normally see in a restaurant. But if you went to the farmer's market, all right, and you took a look at what broccoli really looks like, broccoli's got treetops, the florets, but it's got a really long stem, all right? Make sure that if you are buying whole broccoli, get the stem too, because the stem has twice as much of the isothiocyanates, twice as much of the bioactive that lowers inflammation. And the stem is also really, really packed with dietary fiber as well. So I would definitely use the entire broccoli. Now, to cook pieces of broccoli, you can slice up the stem into medallions and actually cook with those, stir fry with them, saute them. The best way that I like to cook broccoli: get a pot of boiling water, like a pasta pot, get water boiling, and clean your broccoli, and cut it up, prepare it, and literally just throw the broccoli in the boiling water, blanch it for 1 minute, maybe even less. You will see the natural green color of your fresh broccoli suddenly get greener and greener and brighter and brighter. And you want to fish it out of the water before it gets super bright. You leave it in there, it'll get brighter, and then it'll get duller, because now all of a sudden, pretty much you've cooked out all those bioactives. You know, that's the stuff that your grade school cafeteria serve. Don't go there. Blanch it. That's like 60 seconds in boiling water, or water that was boiling. You turn it off, you put it in there, then fish them out. And now you can cool them off if you want with some water. Now you can cook with them. And now it's the perfect thing to saute. You can cook it really quickly, right? Otherwise, you'd have to cook the broccoli for a lot longer. But if you want to saute quickly, or if you want to actually wok sear something, that's the quick way, is to blanch the broccoli first. All right, that's a typical thing that I do. If you're going to cook in a wok, for example, a little bit of oil, a little bit of garlic, or shallots. All right, stir fry it. You can put a little bit of rice wine in there. Don't worry, the alcohol cooks right off. And then add a little soy sauce, low sodium soy sauce, please. And then if you want, you could actually put some oyster sauce on there after basically everything's done. And we're talking about like less than 2 minutes, you'll be finished. Put some oyster sauce in there, stir it around a little bit, and serve it. What an amazing umami flavor. And you get all the benefits of the broccoli, including the stems. If you actually are stir frying with the stems, you're getting the vitamin C, you're getting the isothiocyanates, you're getting the dietary fiber, you're getting all these components that can lower inflammation if you have arthritis. So that's a tasty way to actually lower inflammation. Okay. Now, if you're going like, all right, I'm not going to go to all that trouble. What can I do with the stems? Look, you can actually make a soup out of broccoli stem. All right. Put it in a blender, add some vegetable stock, oregano, and you've got a broccoli stem oregano soup. I got a great recipe in the book that I wrote called Eat to Beat Disease. And by the way, it only takes 20 minutes from start to finish. All right. That's pretty good. And you can make a batch of it so you can have it over for lunch the next day. All right. Now, here's a pro tip. If you want to get all those isothiocyanates, but you want to get like the really superhero punch of it, like the really potent amount, use broccoli sprouts. These are the 3 or 4 day old tiny little sprouts of baby broccoli, and they are packed with isothiocyanates. In fact, baby broccoli sprouts have 100 times the isothiocyanates that adult broccoli does. All right, so you really get a lot of you get a little potency with broccoli sprouts. You can use them to make a broccoli sprout shake, or you could sprinkle them on a salad, or virtually any dish that you're making. You can make use of broccoli sprouts. You can find them in farmers markets. You can usually find them near the herb section of a grocery store. They're not very expensive. They don't taste a lot like broccoli. They're mild. They're slightly nutty flavored. And they're delicious. So I recommend that. Kiwi benefits the lower gut microbiome as well in your colon. Now, this is actually a study that was shown by looking at eating kiwi and looking at what happens to your gut microbiome by checking the poop. All right, because you can actually take your poop now and do a swab. You kind of like a little swab, like the kind you use for a COVID test, but you swab your poop, you put it in a tube, you send it to the lab, and the lab will actually sequence the bacteria to check out what kind and how much bacteria is actually in your stool. And what they actually found is that by eating a kiwi, it changes your gut microbiome for the better within 24 hours. So one kiwi in 24 hours will change your gut microbiome, your gut bacteria, for the better. And if you actually wait 4 days, you'll see other bacteria that are also continuing to improve even more. So the effect is fast, even within a day, but over the course of a week, you actually get even further improvement. The bacteria that improve are like Lactobacillus reuteri. That's actually an important bacteria. And the bacteria, this good bacteria in the gut also lowers inflammation, and it improves your immune defenses, shields up, inflammation down. That's what I'm talking about when you want to have good gut health. And good gut health, by the way, is good brain health. And so kiwi actually can contribute its own role in doing this. And this is actually a great thing to actually eat during breakfast. It's one of my favorite times to actually sample a kiwi.
Hey there, I want to share another resource with you. It's my free guide on your body's 5 health defense systems. These 5 systems, angiogenesis, regeneration, your gut microbiome, DNA protection, and immunity, are your shields against disease, and they're responsible for maintaining your health every single day of your life. By knowing about how these systems work to defend your body, you can tap into their healing powers to live a longer, better, and much healthier life. I explain each of these defense systems to you in my free guide, and as a bonus, I've included some of the best foods you can eat to activate each defense system. Get my guide for free right now in the caption below. Now, back to the video.
Now, I got to tell you, one of the bacteria that improves is Lactobacillus reuteri in the gut by eating a kiwi. And I did research on Lactobacillus reuteri. I had a colleague, a collaborator at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. She was studying animals and studying gut microbiome. And what we actually found is that Lactobacillus reuteri, when you actually just put it in a drinking water of lab animals, all right? You know, have you ever had a hamster, right, in a cage? You know, you put a bottle of water up, there's a little nozzle, and a hamster will go up there and start licking the bottom of it to drink water. Well, if you put Lactobacillus reuteri, okay, which is actually increased by kiwi in your body, if you just put that in the drinking water and the lab animals actually lick that, guess what it does? The Lactobacillus reuteri in the drinking water prompts the brain to secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin is a social hormone released by the brain. It's a hormone that actually makes you feel really great. When you see a friend at an airport, you haven't seen in a long time, you run up and give them a big hug, and you feel good. That's what Lactobacillus reuteri can actually do. And Lactobacillus reuteri increases when you actually have kiwi, right? Now, the other thing that better bacteria that kiwi can actually prompt, the improvement of your gut microbiome, is a good healthy bacteria in your gut produce a metabolite. So they actually produce their own products. They're called short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids. So it's, fatty acid is like omega-3s or other kinds of fatty acids. But I can tell you that bacteria will produce them and release them. Healthy bacteria will produce short chain fatty acids. There's 3 of them: acetate, butyrate, propionate. Those are the 3 short chain fatty acids, and all of them go to work to our benefit. All right. When we feed our gut microbiome well, like giving them a kiwi, our gut bacteria pays us back by releasing these short chain fatty acids right into our bloodstream. And when they're in our bloodstream, which we can actually measure, they lower inflammation in our body. They boost our immune system, so we actually have shields are actually up. And the gut bacteria also text messages our brain and helps our brain release these social hormones like oxytocin. Now, let's talk a little bit about buying a kiwi at a store, right? Because at the end of the day, so Dr. Lee, you told me all about kiwi. What am I supposed to do? Well, listen, go to the grocery store. You're almost certain to actually find kiwi there. It's become very, very popular. And you buy them. Ideally, you buy them, they have a little bit of give to them, so they're not unripe. You want to get ones that are on their way to ripening. And you store that kiwi in the bag, like I told you, until it gets a little bit softer, but not too soft. And don't put it in your other fruit once it starts to soften up. You can keep a kiwi about a week or maybe 2, but you got to watch it. So you don't want to wait for it to over ripen. It won't taste really good. It'll be kind of mushy. But when it goes from being solid, like really hard, to being slightly soft, I would actually just eat it right then and there. It's absolutely delicious. What I like to do is just kind of cut it in half. You take a spoon, you can scoop out the fruit. It's actually delicious. You can actually, again, I mentioned this to you before, if you want to get all the dietary fiber benefit, go ahead and cut up the kiwi, include the skin, pop it in a blender and puree it. You won't even taste the skin. It just disappears. All that fiber is disappeared right into whatever it is you're making. And of course, fiber, if you have the fiber from kiwi skin in a smoothie, that'll supercharge your gut health because that's a big load of beneficial fiber. All right. Now, I like to eat kiwi for breakfast. If you have whole yogurt and you want something sweet to put on top, I never buy the yogurt in a store that has pre-sweetened or has that layer of jelly in it. Nope. Buy whole yogurt, plain whole yogurt. All right. It's good for your heart. Trust me, because whole yogurt actually is probiotic. It's good for you. Helps to lower your lipids, in fact. And then you want something sweet, take a ripe kiwi, cut it up, and just throw it right on top of the whole yogurt. And you want to kind of give it a little bit of texture. Take some pistachios or walnuts and crush them up, sprinkle it on top, and just take a spoon and eat the yogurt. Amazing, really, really amazing flavor. The sweet and slight tartness of the kiwi really balances out the richness of the yogurt, which is a dairy product, a probiotic dairy product, and the nuts give you a little crunch, a little extra texture. That's also great. So that's how I eat. That's how I often like to use kiwi for breakfast. But you can also eat kiwi as a dessert. Think about it. You take a kiwi that's nice and ripe, slice it in half. All you need is a spoon at the end. It's not too sweet. It's not like eating, a piece of cake with really sweetened icing. Nope. This is actually the most natural, mildly sweet and slightly tart fruit that's good for breakfast or good for dessert. Some people say the kiwi tastes a little bit like strawberry. I would say, yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Now, I'll tell you something. I've seen kiwi drinks in a can. All right. It's not soda. It's kind of a fruit juice with kiwi on it. You'll see this frequently. It's very popular in Asia, and you'll see them in an Asian grocery store. These are kind of like tall cans of kiwi drink. And by the way, they actually taste really good. There is real kiwi in it. But I will tell you that most of the time, just please look at the ingredient label. They add sugar in it, so there's added sugar, which is not something you need and not something you want. Added sugar overloads your metabolism, all right? But even worse, it can actually contain artificial flavors to actually enhance the kiwi taste. Artificial sweeteners like xylitol, that is absolutely not what you actually want in a beverage, all right? So what I have to say, I was disappointed. I thought maybe there would be a fruit drink made with kiwi that would actually be great. So far, most of the kiwi drinks I've looked at actually have artificial sweeteners, artificial coloring. They call them natural flavors, but they don't tell you what it is. Makes me very, very suspicious. But you don't want any type of artificial sweeteners. You know why? Because artificial sweeteners can damage your gut microbiome. So xylitol, erythritol, sucralose, saccharin, all of those things, aspartame. So far, the research is not giving us good news. They actually damage the microbiome. When you actually damage the microbiome, which is normally keeping inflammation down, when you damage that function, guess what? Inflammation in your body rises. Your gut microbiome helps you process lipids. Here, it evens out your lipids, your blood cholesterol. So when you damage your gut bacteria, what happens? Your blood cholesterol can actually start to rise. So these are all kinds of things that you don't want to have happen. You don't never want to damage your gut microbiome. You can avoid it. So unfortunately, I can't recommend a kiwi drink. It would otherwise be something that I think would be a really, really cool, kind of an exotic drink. I mean, I guess you could juice your own kiwis. That would be kind of a cool thing to do. So you might want to try that. You can add the kiwi to make a smoothie, add some other fruits, maybe strawberry and kiwi probably go together pretty well. All right, I hope you learned something new. Thanks for watching this video, and I will catch you next time.
Hi there. If you enjoyed watching this video, I know you'll love the next one. Stay here and check it out, and I'll see you there.